I hope you guys are doing well. All right, so for those of you guys that joined me in the shaping class, I really appreciate that. I'm just gonna quickly review what we went over. For those of you guys that are interested in some future shaping classes, make sure to get a hold of Ray Bracamontes. I cover quite a few different shapes, really just the fundamentals so that your sidewalls, your lower arches, and your upper arch are going to be picturesque, and that's what it's about. So when your clients are walking out the door, they're going to be like constantly staring at their nails, right? That's what you want. All right, so what we want to be able to do, I've gone ahead and I've removed shine from the surface of the nail, and then I'm just going to apply a couple coats of protein bond. That way, whatever we are applying to the surface of the natural nail, you're not going to have any issues at all. What we want to be able to do, and this is really important, when we take our form, depending on the shape. So if you were going to go for more square, and longer, I would definitely try to pinch out more of a C curve down at the bottom here. You can definitely get away with it here if you're doing active length, because all you're doing is building the nail out to about this distance right here. But if you're going longer, then what you want to be able to do is you want to place that tab underneath and just pinch the tabs below so that you get more of a traditional style C curve in the form. And then that way, when you place the form onto, or underneath the nail, boom, you're going to have a really flat kind of platform that's built all the way out to the very edge, right? You're going to notice, if you're looking for more, like I would say, depth, what you could always do is take the back of your brush, right? So if I just run this just kind of underneath, what we're going to be able to do is just kind of create kind of a really nice kind of flat platform that you're going to be able to work off of. I mean, traditionally when I'm working, I just pinch it and go, right? But if you're going to be building something really square on the edges, then you want to try to get this as flat as you can all the way down. So if I take my brush, I get a nice bead, and I'm going to try to get something that has a clay-like consistency. I don't have a lot of liquid in there. Let me go ahead and put a little bit more. You want to kind of drain your bead. If you're going straight from the dish to the form, and I'll show you. So if you go straight from the dish and you pick it up and then you set it down, then you're going to have to deal with that, right? Which we don't want. If you submerge your brush and you pick up a bead and you drain this, right, you're going to see kind of a matte consistency, like this is still running, and then you go ahead and you set that down to the form, then nothing moves, right? Really slow. So there's a huge difference when you're picking it up and you're draining it. I'm talking about when you're working on a form or you're working on a tip. You're working on some type of a platform where you're going to be building on. It's, again, really important that you have consistency, that you're able to maneuver. So if I take my brush and I tap it and I bounce, and I get a nice fluffy bead on one side and I go ahead and take this off, then what I want to be able to do is, if I set this down and release it, you're going to notice that it's not going to run. It's going to give me the ability to use a really light pressure and walk from the top so that I'm going to be able to get all the way up to the corner. You see how straight that edge is all the way to the top? So I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, walking from the surface. So all that bulk here, you notice that I'm using the very, very bottom of my brush, almost the base of my brush, to kind of walk that up to make this as even as I can all the way down. So from here, if I'm trying to build something really, really square, what I'm trying to do is trying to get those edges out as like pretty much matched to my growth channels as straight as I possibly can. If I'm going to taper my edges for a coffin, then yes, I want to be able to kind of angle that down. One of the things I've learned in the past, especially if you guys are working with individuals who say have really, I'd say, flat nails, what you can do is you can build a well. Okay, so if I come through and kind of build this thin well up through the natural nail right here, right, so all I would do is take a bead, and I'm going to work with this wet because when I set this down, I want to be able to lightly touch and then brush. Lightly touch, brush, right? Just kind of slide it and then brush, creating this well over the tip. Now, the advantage of doing this is I can continue to work on other nails, and then as this dries, right, when this dries out, what I will be able to do is I'll be able to come through and pinch this, right? So like I don't have any C-curve right there, nothing. It's just very, very subtle. So on the natural nail, like if I wanted to create more C-curve, especially with someone who had a really, really kind of flat surface, you're not going to take your magic wand and go here. You're going to take your magic wand and come at an angle. You're going to be pushing pressure like right there. And that's exactly what I would do after about, I'd say about 3 minutes. I'd be able to come in and put pressure here. So the shell of the tip, right, that full well of the tip that I created is going to be able to narrow out and create a really, really sexy look, right? It's going to narrow the natural nail. This is great for individuals who have, wide nail beds who grow out, or individuals that don't have any like if someone has really, really short nail beds, and then what you'll be able to do, and say they're kind of growing wide, you'll be able to cap it and then come through and then pinch it. A lot of times if I'm doing design work and I notice that there's a finger that's a little bit, off kilter, a little bit wider than some of the other natural nails, I'll go ahead and build it like this and then continue to work. And then when I come back, I'm kind of going to give it a feel. Like right now it's very silky, soft. I'm able just to kind of touch the edges to see where I stand with the pinch. I want to be able to show you guys. It's probably been about a minute and a half. The good thing is you can buy wooden dowels. Even the back end of your brush has great C-curve, right? So something that, you can get at a hobby store. Michael sells wooden dowels in different sizes, but, since I'm working with this brush and this is pretty much going to fit the kind of the C-curve that I want from this point to this point, I'm just going to wait till this sets and then show you guys when is the optimum time. You don't want to rip it off too fast. If you rip it off too fast, then you're going to end up kind of disturbing the structure of the curve. Let's go ahead. You can start to see the form. I'm going to kind of pinch it from the tip, and then as I remove it, right, so I have a lot more. You can see I have some real good flexibility inside, and what I'm going to do is just kind of fold it over that edge. I would probably need a smaller brush to come through to get this a little bit deeper. All right, but with plastic, you're kind of limited because I'm not really going to be able to pinch the plastic into crazy shape. You're always going to kind of narrow out the very, very front. But you can see as it starts to shape, I'm really going to be able to kind of pinch in some great form all the way through. But then that's how you're going to set it up. It kind of narrows out. The good thing is the flexibility that's it. You can see kind of how it narrows out towards the front end because I don't have any room to pinch here. The plastic is preventing it from actually going in. But you can see that if the plastic was pliable, I would be able to take that plastic, that edge right there, and I would be able to make it that much more narrow on the edges, which is absolutely awesome. All right, let's go ahead and finish this through. So if I have that length, then what I do is I need obviously a lot of product to support. So I'm going to get a really, really big bead, and then obviously I'm not going to set it down right away. I'm going to kind of count. That's a 3, 4, around a 5 count. I'm going to kind of release. I'm going to take the tip of my brush. I'm just going to kind of walk around the edges and then just kind of juggle the product down, just kind of keeping it on, right? Keeping it on, and then I'm going to start feathering it down and through the corners in the front, allowing the product to kind of self-level all the way through. That is really that's a monster bead, which is fine. So what we want to be able to do is really kind of brush that excess down and through the body. If I have enough, what I will be able to do is really kind of complete it in one, right? So I'm not going to be able to fully get the tip set, but what I will be able to do is really kind of balance out the acrylic. And then you could see a little bit of width on the sides, and that's fine. As it starts coming down, I'm going to have room to kind of file that arch into place. What I'll do is take just a very, very slight amount more, and then what I can do is I can kind of set this here to kind of fill the space that I need at the tip where I wasn't able to kind of brush the acrylic over the surface. And that's going to allow me to come in and file that into perfection, right? So a little bit off balance with the amount of acrylic that I brushed in, but one of the things I'm confident about is just the level of tightness around the perimeter. So I allowed the product to self-level down this way as the product was running this way. And then, you can see that I'm going to have a really, really tight edge all the way around. And as the product came down, I kind of juggled it before I started feathering. When the product reached about right here, this is when I started really kind of feathering it in. Then I noticed the consistency was starting to firm up, and that allowed me to start brushing it from about right here in this position all the way through with kind of firm strokes. That way I was actually able to get most of it all the way down, right? So you can see, obviously got some shape. I probably need really kind of a hair amount about right there. So I'm just going to take a small amount of acrylic, and I'm just going to kind of set it in the area that I need it, right? I'm not going to very, very small amount. I'm just going to let that settle, then use the body of the brush just to kind of walk it even from side to side. And then you can see from the tip where I need to kind of just feather it through to blend it, kind of leaves the acrylic in place, allowing me to use the body of the brush to come through and just kind of pat it absolutely even into the right structure. Okay, so we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to come through and we're going to file it. So from the top, so it's slightly like, you're looking at this and you're like, well, it looks like kind of bowing down slightly, but I have room, right? Like my growth channel starts here at the top, and then as it comes down, you can see the acrylic slightly bowing out, not much. That's because as I'm brushing down, you're never going to be able to get it absolutely even with your brush. What you're going to be able to do is you have to get it even with your hand file. But that gives me room to file my sides completely straight. Look at that right here on this side, and then this side as well. It gives me room to file my edges completely straight. All right, so we're going to allow that to dry, and I'm going to explain to you some of the things that we're going to be working on in order for you to be able to establish perfection when it comes to filing. You have to remember that when you're filing anything square, it has to be 5 points. So, if we've built out the nail, then, I explained to everybody yesterday that, you have to break it down into, step 1, right? And then you're going to have step 2, and then you're going to have 3, and then, then from the sides, right? So the lower arch, right, is going to be 4, and then the opposite side is going to be 5. So this side and the opposite side is going to be 5, right? So before we start getting into any filing, this is going to set you up so that when you're filing the actual shaping of the nail, it's going to be really razor sharp on the edges and really straight here. The bulk of it, when you start to use your electric file, this is after you're done shaping, right? So I need to take a hand file, and we're going to take my edges down. This is really important that you take the edges down of your hand file so that you do not cut. I have plenty of bulk on the nail. This is definitely set, so we're going to follow here. Going to keep contact on the side all the way through. All right, boom, 1. So you can see that dust pattern, but you can also see the ledge. Look at the ledge that I filed all the way through, how straight that becomes. And it's not just, it's all the way from the top down to the bottom, right? And I have the same thing on this side. If I take contact and I'm sending it in the middle and I'm filing this dead straight, right? So what's going to end up happening, because I have contact, you can see the position of my finger as well. And look at the dust lines. You can see how straight that becomes. I'm not holding the file like this, making sure I'm putting pressure. And then when I'm filing on this side, I'm making sure I'm using my thumb to put pressure onto that side so that I can get it even. Here, you could either square it off dead straight, or you could taper it by angling your file, right, so that the edges are going to kind of be tapered. Now, the lower arches, do not make the mistake of taking your hand file and just start doing this. Like, there's a lot of people that, to get their side straight, what they do is they start pulling their edges in like this, and then what ends up happening is you get that notch right here on the edge of your corner, right? This is not correct. Coming in and just doing this is going to hack away and create these ledges. You have to remember that the file has to be absolutely, so if I turn my client's hand to the side and I'm lining the file parallel to the finger and I'm starting from the lowest point, the growth channel starts here, right? So I have all that excess on the bottom. I cannot line my file here and try to file this way. I have to start from the lower arch, the very, very lowest part, and I have to file up until my hand file reaches that corner. And then what you're going to notice is I'm going to be able to build an absolutely razor sharp lower arch coming off that side. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. This one, I have a ton of product, so I'm going to start all the way down here. All right, so as I file up, and then what I'm going to end up doing is I'm eventually going to reach that point, keeping a lot of pressure here in the front until my hand file reaches, right? And then you're going to be able to see that I'm actually able to come through, right, and get it like really, really, really straight. Okay, so there's still a lot of bulk there. For those of you guys, again, that, are starting, I'd rather have you kind of overbuild the nail slightly, and that way you have room to file. Because when you're using your electric file, now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of file the upper arch in. So I'm working in one direction, working around 12,000 RPMs. I'm using my safety bit. I want to be able to file in one direction towards myself so that I'm able to create that really nice arch all the way through. Then I'm going to look down the barrel of the nail. I need to kind of match that center thickness. So as I come through and I start to bring in a lot of that bulk from the sides, right, in one direction, everything is going to start to come in really nice, I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side in one direction, really working. Like the area that I'm working is that front end, just trying to take down that thickness. All right. And then I want to work around the cuticle area. Kind of want to work around that cuticle area to take down a little bit of that thickness all the way through, and then all the way down and through the nail. So once most of the bulk is taken off, then we're going to be using our hand file to be doing the remaining amount of refinement. And that is all based on starting off at the cuticle area to make sure that we blend it in really nice and flush. Right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through. I'm just going to make sure that my edges, all the details now are going to come down towards here. Notice how I'm filing in one direction with my hand file to taper down this way. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to do the same thing, but my contact is going up and then down, up and then down, up and then down. Because if it's easier, picking at it this way is very difficult. Having contact going up will allow you to ride the surface of the nail, right? So that it's absolutely perfect. All right, so once we have all our edges kind of shaped out, then what I want to do is I want to look at kind of client profile. I want to kind of make sure that my edges are going to be really, really kind of straight. I want to make sure that my sides, you can see my file, how straight everything is, making sure that my hand file is dead straight on this side. I still have quite a bit of thickness all the way around, but relative to, like putting a tip on and cutting it and then making it crooked, like if I sculpt it out and make it even, it's going to make all the difference in the world. So my final stage is taking my hand file, just kind of going, I rest it in between my fingers, and then I just kind of cruise to make sure that my C curve is going to be absolutely perfect on both sides. And then you can see, right, how dead straight, you can see how dead straight everything is going to be. And that's what we want to be able to create, right? So that, has quite a bit of, this is definitely going to be a salon structured nail if I go for any type of length. But you can see that I have room to come down and really file that dead straight on the sides, and that's what we want to be able to, that way, your nails, right, are really straight on the edges. A lot of nail techs make the mistake when they're filing is their file's not connected to the whole side. What ends up happening is they come down and they pull here, so that they're sliding. Then what ends up happening is this. You're going to notice, you see the edge starts to bow in right here. And it's not intentional, it's just the movement is very subtle at the end. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're keeping it straight, right? And if you have rounded edges, then what you can do, you can fix it by just kind of using the hand file and tapering it. You're going to have to shorten it, but you can taper it back. It'll round off the edges and it'll sharpen up. It'll really sharpen up the corner. You round off the edges and sharpen up. You'll have that tapered look on the front, but what you're going to have is really, really straight, lower, sidewalls running all the way down, right? And that's what you want to be able to create, okay? All right, cool. Wanted to go over that, again, application to finishing all the way through, all the subtleties that are going to make a difference in the appearance of your nails. And again, it's what's going to set you apart from everybody else. If you have questions, let me know. If you have questions about classes, make sure to get a hold of Ray Bracamontes here at home office. He'll be able to get you guys tuned up, ready to rock and roll. I did notice, what grid is that file? 150. Any updates on the dust collector when they'll be in stock? You have to call customer service. The biggest problem we had with everything wasn't that we didn't order enough. Because of COVID, everything has been stuck in Long Beach, literally, and all suppliers around the world are experiencing the same problems. We've had dust collectors as well as what do you call it, filters stuck at the port for the last 3 to 4 months. There's this line of boats that is literally endless going out to sea. Hopefully everything is rectified soon. What paper towels are those? We sell these. These are the soft landings towels. Get a hold of Ray. Home office customer service will be able to take. It's necessary to use Swipe with Protein Bond. 100%. Swipe is used to dehydrate, clean the surface of the natural nail. Protein Bond is used to create adhesion for gel and acrylic enhancements, as well as gel polish and everything else that's out there. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm always here to help. Have a great day. Peace.